So this video is going to help you find your personality type. So you've probably heard of the 8 cognitive functions. This is an oversimplification of what they actually are, but these general building blocks are helpful. They are helpful metaphors to help you come to grips with your own unique manner of thinking and feeling. And yes, unique. There's no such thing as personality type per se. What there is are general regions in which many people of a similar, yes similar, not identical, cognitive predisposition will be inhabiting. So as such, you must take your personality with a grain of salt. It is not going to define who you are. It is just going to place you within a general area of cognition. Heed me when I say this. You do not discover your type in order to find your cognitive functions. You find your cognitive functions in order to discover your type. It is generally unwise to take a personality test or to just read type descriptions to identify what type you are, and then dive into cognitive functions after that, because generally you'll be back to square one before you know it. So first and foremost, stop taking online tests. Stop reading type descriptions. Online personality tests do not work, and I've made a video explaining why. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. And yeah, while there are some amazing type descriptions on the internet, they generally still fall into the trap of describing ubiquitous human traits. Therefore, if you do identify with a type, you are simultaneously going to be identifying, albeit to a lesser degree, with other types. But again, I would not rely on type descriptions because generally speaking, they tend to be a bit naff. And before we go any further, I just want to point out that cognitive functions are not nearly as complicated as various blog posts and books and videos on the internet will make them out to be. They are in fact remarkably simple. And I will be making a video thoroughly summarising the cognitive functions at a later date. So first up, we need to determine your dominant function. This is your primary dialogue. It doesn't mean you have the function more than another function. It doesn't mean this function is stronger than another function. It just means it is the central domain of your ego complex. It generally occupies the most conscious space within your mind. Do you perceive external reality in an extremely broad manner? Do you have a high predictive capability? In that case, you might be an extroverted intuitive dominant. Can you take in a lot of information at once, and are you generally a thirst for novelty and knowledge? Again, these are the, albeit simplified, hallmarks of an extroverted intuitive dominant. Are you more predictive of the emotions of another person? Are you highly sensitive to the external emotional atmosphere? Do you resonate with various INFJ descriptions? Well, you might be an INTP. An INTP has extroverted intuition connected to extroverted feeling, the convergent auxiliary, in their dominant stack. And therefore, this is a highly intuitive extroverted feeling type. Or do you rather have a thirst for objective knowledge? Are you constantly seeking new patterns in the external objective atmosphere? New connections, new means of doing things, new plans, new forms of artistic expression? Well, you may very well be an INFP, because an INFP has extroverted intuition connected to extroverted thinking in the dominant stack. Extroverted thinking is objective, extroverted feeling is subjective. Or is this broad, holistic scope of reality directed more internally than it is externally? Do you more envisage and foresee far future outcomes more than you do those outcomes of the near future? Do you seek to encapsulate as much of reality as you possibly can within a single internal scope? Well, in this case, you might be an introverted intuitive dominant. Do you seek to condense all objective information into a single theory? Are you constantly trying to figure out the underlying nature behind reality, all the while being fairly averse to objective criteria and systems for their own sake? Well, in that case, you may very well be an INFJ, because an INFJ has introverted intuition and introverted thinking in the dominant stack. Or is your internal dialogue more subjective in nature, more kaleidoscopic? Do you rely more on symbols and metaphors? Do you form extremely strong attachments to the external objective world? Attachments which are completely unique to you. And do you understand the world around you primarily through a means of relation, as you seek to transform your identity and take responsibility for it, as you seek to contain the vastness of your emotions and identity within a single scope that says, I am? Well, in that case, you may be an INTJ, because an INTJ has introverted intuition and introverted feeling in the dominant stack. Or is this internal lens of yours more specific, more concrete in nature, rather than envisioning kaleidoscopic future outcomes and abstract theories of everything? Do you instead tend to focus these internal energies on the concrete, the tangible, on existing memories within your mind? Do you reflect constantly on meaningful experiences to you? Do you look forward to the accumulation of new meaningful experiences in order to inform and enhance your internalized experience of reality? Well, in that case, you may very well be an introverted sensing dominant. Introverted sensing dominants are just as analytical and rational as introverted intuitive dominants, but they are much more precise when they do so. And oftentimes, albeit not always, these types will find a certain solace in repetitive behaviour, repetitive actions, the routine of the day. And they are often known for their attention to detail and reliability. Do you specifically consult and refine over time various objective definitions in your head? Are you more theoretical in nature? Do you seek to understand the forces making up and driving the balance of the world around us? Well, in that case, you may very well be an ISFJ, because ISFJs have introverted sensing and introverted thinking in the dominant stack. Or is your gaze more directed towards your own emotions, your own sense of identity? Are you certain in your convictions? Are you certain in your values? Are you constantly assessing who you are and relating yourself to the objective world around you? Do you feel an innate sense of pride and self-worth in your ability to be effective and understand, accommodate and adhere to any external logical criteria? Well, in this case, you may be an ISTJ, because the ISTJ has introverted sensing connected to introverted feeling in the dominant stack. Or is this very precise lens rather directed externally? Can you anchor in to the very here and now? Can you experience life to the fullest? Are you known for your ability to focus on the external world, to hone into any given action, to anchor into the present and focus specifically on what you need to do? Does life feel natural to you? Do you feel an intrinsic connection to the world around you? Well, in this case, you may be an extraverted sensing dominant. But the problem is, not a lot of people relate to this description because the here and now, the present tense, is actually the most, ironically, abstract out of all the human experiences. Because we are creatures of anticipation, we are creatures of reflection. And while the extraverted sensing dominant does have the ability more than other types to anchor into the here and now, they're not connected to it in the absolute, minute sense. They are still anticipating future outcomes and they are still reflecting upon the past, but they are more anchored into the present than other types. Are you more task-oriented? Do you pride yourself on the ability to master skill sets and perform them to a high standard? Are you certain in your objective conclusions? Well, in this case, you may be an ESFP, because an ESFP has extraverted sensing connected to extraverted thinking in the dominant stack. Or is your relationship to the here and now more grounded in a social experience? Can you acutely detect the various microtransactions that take place in a social atmosphere? Do you pride yourself in a certain level of social adaptability? Do you have a certain innate charisma? Can you just go with the flow of any given conversation? Well, you may very well be an ESTP, because the ESTP has extraverted sensing connected to extraverted feeling in the dominant stack. Or is your experience of reality less experiential in nature? Are you more concerned with the adherence to certain values and principles? Well, rather than being a lens dominant type, such as ones I've been outlining previously, you may very well be a codec dominant type. Are you acutely aware of yourself as a member of the human race? Do you strive to be able to fulfill a role within society? Do you feel an intrinsic need to get on the same level as other people? Do you pride yourself in the ability to create and nourish a kind of social cohesion? Well, you may very well be an extraverted feeling dominant. Are you comfortable in groups? Do you have many friends? Do you want to be able to connect with as many people as you possibly can? Do you generally consider yourself quite an open individual? And do you feel, through all your ability to acquire and maintain a variety of different social connections, very set in how you want to contribute to society in the way that you feel you should contribute? Well, you may very well be an ESFJ, because an ESFJ has extraverted intuition connected to their extraverted feeling dominant function, all the while being informed by an introverted sensing authority function. Or are you much more private? Do you prefer to limit your social interactions to a one-on-one or a small group setting? Do you prefer to engage in a social situation in a more intense manner, sacrificing perhaps breadth of scope for intensity? All the while, do you feel, for as much as you want to limit your social interactions to just a few people, and to only have a few people truly knowing you, to impact society and the human race as broadly and as profoundly as you possibly can? Do you set yourself very high standards, and do you put a lot of effort into reaching these future goals to maximize your social utility? Well, you may very well be an ENFJ, because an ENFJ has an extraverted sensing lens connected to their dominant function, all the while oftentimes having a very strong and relentless introverted intuitive vision of the holistic role within society they wish to fulfill. Or on the other hand, is your emotional dialogue primarily internal in nature? Are you constantly trying to relate yourself to the world around you? Are you constantly trying to understand the fabric of reality on a deeper level? Solve the perpetual existential dilemma? Are you profoundly aware of your own emotions, and can you relate strongly through your own imagination to the emotions of another person without even needing to be in the same space? Well, you may very well be an introverted feeling dominant. Is your emotional dialogue very precise and concrete? Are you able to some degree to pinpoint certain emotions, suppress them while allowing other emotions to rise naturally to the surface? Are you very certain in your relational empathy? Is your emotional dialogue strongly connected to the past? Do you have very strong emotional responses to any things that you may associate a certain past experience with? Well, you may very well be an INFP, because the INFP has introverted feeling connected to introverted sensing in the dominant stack. Or are your emotions more kaleidoscopic in nature? Is your sense of morality informed more by a natural sense of cause and effect than it is by absolute concepts of right and wrong? Are you constantly trying to borrow from a future version of yourself? Do you use archetypes and figures and symbols in order to understand the otherwise undefinable emotional waves within your psyche? Is your existential dialogue more holistic in nature? Well, you may very well be an ISFP, because introverted feeling is connected to an introverted intuitive lens. Or rather than your internal rational dialogue being more limbic in nature, perhaps it's more cerebral. Perhaps you seek to solve puzzles and problems and understand systems entirely for their own sake. Perhaps you find a natural joy in doing so. Perhaps you are most fulfilled and at peace when implementing upon your own unique systems and procedures. Well, in this case, you may very well be an introverted thinking dominant. And perhaps your introverted thinking cogitations are very specific in nature. Perhaps you like to fine-tune over time your various definitions and systems. Perhaps you are to some degree a creature of habit. Perhaps you have a very set and systemized way of thinking and understanding frameworks and implementing systems. Well, you may very well be an INTP, because an INTP is a very specific thinker. They have introverted thinking connected to introverted sensing. Or rather, is your introverted thinking dialogue much more holistic or even bombastic in nature? Are you constantly seeking radical change within your own mind? Are you constantly seeking new ways of doing things? Are you constantly looking to adapt and invent new and original methodology? Do you tend to jump from one interest to another? Do you seek, rather than honing in on details like the INTP would, to constantly expand your area of expertise and accomplish and foresee entirely new ways of connecting various objective components together? Well, you may very well be an ISTP, because an ISTP has introverted thinking connected to introverted intuition. And therefore, while both of these types do have a certain aptitude for invention, it is the ISTP who is constantly looking towards the new and the unexplored. Or is this highly objective and rational agenda directed more externally? Do you feel most fulfilled and at peace when implementing systems and achieving your goals? Do you foresee desired outcomes and work in a highly systematic way in order to see these outcomes realized? Does the implementation of directives, the solving of puzzles, a constant fluid interaction with external objective components come naturally to you? Do you like to fulfill a clear and obvious role, a utility, within any given institution or society? Well, you may very well be an extraverted thinking dominant. Do you feel like your scope of objective reality is very narrow and precise in nature? Do you prefer to hone in more on the details and a specific medium than encompass a vast array of moving parts? All the while, do you feel like you focus in on a very small portion of reality in order to achieve a grand, holistic vision? Well, you may very well be an ENTJ, because the ENTJ has extraverted sensing connected to extraverted thinking in a dominant stack, all the while being informed by an introverted intuitive vision of a desired future outcome. Or rather, are you much more at ease and happy and fulfilled when interacting with a much larger scope of extraverted thinking reality? Do you like to start and implement and be a part of an ongoing plan? Do you enjoy interacting with various different human and mechanical components in order to see a plan realized? Do you see the external extroverted thinking world as more of a playground in order to enact various different plans? And do you get excited when thinking about these different alternative means of accomplishing goals? All the while is your vision of what you want to achieve much more niche and much more grounded and concrete, with very tangible and obvious implications. Well, in this case, you may very well be an ESTJ, because the ESTJ has extroverted intuition connected to their extroverted thinking in a dominant stack, all the while they're informed by an introverted sensing sense of the tangible, the concrete. And they will generally be reflecting more upon the past than the ENTJ would, in order to find the most effective means of accomplishing a goal. And that concludes part 1 of the Finding Your Type series. And in the next video we will be exploring your relationship with the oppositional function. Because as soon as both the dominant function and the opposing function are presented, it becomes much easier to elucidate which of these functions are inhabiting either place within your given cognitive stack. And the third and final part of the series will be looking at your auxiliary functions. And it'll be from that point, after deciding both your dominant, oppositional and respective auxiliaries, that you will have a much clearer idea of what your type actually is. And not only that, but have a much more thorough understanding of the cognitive functions. Because the fact is, as soon as you understand exactly what the cognitive functions are at an intrinsic and fundamental level, from that point there is no longer an option as to what type you are. There is only one type you can be. And yes, an individual will vary within that type, but it'll be so obvious and apparent to you how you could not be any other type than the one that stands out to you. And it is very much my hope that by the end of this 3-part series, I would have given people the tools they need in order to determine their true cognitive type. And it goes without saying, I offer a type service to help people along in that journey. And for those of you who can't wait for the cognitive functions episode and want to dive right into the definitions, I do have a CPT ebook dedicated to exploring this very subject. So if you enjoyed part 1 of this series and you're looking forward to the next part, definitely leave a like. It really does help the channel grow, develop and reach new audiences. And if you know anyone who might find this video useful, definitely give it a share with them. And just a final shout, I am on Patreon now, so if you want to support CPT on that additional level, that would be massively appreciated. And I do offer some cool reward tiers there too. If you haven't already done so, make sure to hit that subscribe button with a bell icon next to it down below. That way you can stay notified of future content. I'll be back in a few days' time with a new video, but for now, take care of yourself.